Hey, Stoic friends, the world teaches you to chase, to beg, to explain. From a young age, society conditions us to believe that our worth depends on how much we prove, how quickly we respond, how desperately we hold on to the things and people slipping away from us. But what if I told you the greatest power you can ever wield is not found in chasing others, not in defending yourself, not in pleading for validation, but in the strength of your silence? What if silence itself could become your superpower? Think about it. Everywhere you look, the noise of the world grows louder. Everyone is rushing to speak, to argue, to explain, to post, to justify, to beg for attention. Yet the Stoics understood a timeless truth. Silence is not weakness, it is mastery. In silence, you discover your true self. In silence, you control your emotions instead of being controlled by them. In silence, you refuse to waste energy on those who do not deserve it. Epictetus once said, "We have 2 ears and 1 mouth so that we can listen twice as much as we speak." Silence is the art of restraint, the discipline of choosing not to be dragged into chaos, not to be manipulated by anger, not to give away your power through unnecessary words. The world pressures you to explain yourself, to defend your choices, to beg for closure that will never come. But strength is found in saying nothing. Because silence is not passive, it is active self-respect. It is you drawing a line and saying, "I will not let my peace be disturbed." It is dignity in motion, confidence without noise. When you remain silent, you are not ignoring the world. You are choosing yourself over the world's demand for attention. And that choice separates the strong from the weak, the wise from the foolish, the stoic from the restless. In this video, we are going to break down 5 core truths that reveal why silence is one of the most powerful tools you can carry with you. These truths will show you how silence can shield your peace, sharpen your mind, elevate your self-worth, and allow you to stand with an unshakable presence in a world that constantly tries to shake you. Because silence is not emptiness. It is full of power. It is not a void. It is a weapon. And once you learn how to use it, you will never beg again, never chase again, never waste your energy on explanations that diminish your strength. Today, I invite you to step into this Stoic discipline with me, to embrace the superpower of silence, and to discover how this one practice can transform the way you live, the way you love, and the way you rise above every storm. Ready? Let's dive in. Number 1. Silence makes them feel your absence. Silence is not emptiness. Silence is presence amplified. It is the art of withdrawing your energy and letting others face the echo of their own behavior. When you choose silence, you are not running away. You are not surrendering. You are taking your power back, because every word you do not waste, every reaction you do not give, becomes a reminder that your attention is valuable. And when you stop giving it so freely, people start to notice. Think about it. Most people thrive on reaction. They say something to get under your skin, to pull you into their drama, to make you explain yourself, to force you into the endless cycle of defending, clarifying, or chasing. But when you don't respond, when you let the silence stretch, it does something profound. It creates a vacuum. And in that vacuum, they are left alone with their own actions, their own conscience, their own guilt. Marcus Aurelius said, "The best revenge is to be unlike him who performed the injury." And what could be more unlike those who seek to provoke you than to remain unmoved, silent, and unshaken? Your silence is not weakness. It is restraint. It is strategy. It is discipline. It is saying, "I am not your puppet. You cannot pull my strings. You do not own my peace of mind." And the beauty of silence is this: it forces them to feel your absence more deeply than your presence ever could. Because people grow used to your responses, to your voice, to your explanations. They expect it. They rely on it. But when you break that pattern, when you stop playing the game, they suddenly realize how much space you occupied in their world. Silence makes them ask questions. Why isn't he responding? Why isn't she chasing me? Why doesn't this affect them the way I thought it would? And those questions eat away at them. They replay their words, they rethink their actions, and they feel the weight of your absence pressing against their ego. Here's the truth. Silence is louder than shouting. It's stronger than begging. It's more piercing than any insult you could ever throw back. Silence is the voice of self-respect. It declares without words, I don't need to explain myself to you. I don't need your validation. I don't need your approval. I am complete without you. And that is the real power. You stop centering your life around someone else's behavior. You stop giving them the satisfaction of knowing they can rattle your peace. So the next time you feel the urge to respond, to explain, to defend, remember this. Sometimes the strongest thing you can do is nothing. Stay silent. Let them feel the void. Let them sit with their own noise. Because in your silence, they will finally hear the truth. Number 2, you hear the truth louder. Now, let's talk about hearing the truth about yourself, the truth about others, the truth about life. In the constant noise of the world, it's hard to recognize what's real. Every day you're bombarded with opinions, judgments, and distractions. Social media shouts for your attention, people's voices compete for your agreement, and the chaos of daily responsibilities clouds your mind. You scroll, you consume, you react. And in all that noise, something precious gets lost. Your own voice. You begin to forget what you truly believe, what you truly value, and what you truly want. But here's the power of silence. When you step into stillness, you hear the truth louder than ever. When you choose silence, you're not just avoiding sound. You're creating space, a sacred space where your real self can finally rise. In that quiet, the masks fall away. You no longer live through the lens of others. You stop needing the world's validation, and you start listening to the whispers within. What you discover is not weakness, but strength. What you uncover is not confusion, but clarity. Marcus Aurelius said, "The happiness of your life depends upon the quality of your thoughts." And silence is where you sharpen those thoughts, where you separate truth from illusion. Think about it. Most of your suffering does not come from reality, but from imagination. Seneca said, "We suffer more in imagination than in reality." And he was right. You imagine failure before it arrives. You replay past mistakes like a broken record. You hear the echo of other people's judgments until they sound like your own. But in silence, all that noise dissolves. You begin to see things as they are, not as your fears paint them. You realize that life is rarely as heavy as the mind makes it. In stillness, you learn to hear what your heart has been saying all along. You hear the truth that was buried under fear, under insecurity, under distraction. The truth that you are stronger than your doubts. The truth that you don't need to please everyone to live fully. The truth that your path doesn't have to look like anyone else's. Silence gives you back your compass. It reminds you of what truly matters. And here's the beauty of it. Once you reconnect with that inner truth, the opinions of others lose their grip. Their noise no longer defines you. You walk with clarity. You walk with purpose. You walk with peace. Because the answers you were desperately searching for were never out there. They were always within you, waiting for the moment you chose to listen. Silence is not empty. It is full of truth. And the more you embrace it, the louder that truth becomes. Number 3. Begging for closure is a form of self-betrayal. One of the hardest truths in life is learning to let go without answers. We've all been there, staring at unanswered messages, replaying conversations in our minds, trying to figure out what we could have done differently. We convince ourselves that if they would just explain, if they would just apologize, if they would just give us the closure we crave, Then we could finally move on. But here's the truth. Begging for closure is a form of self-betrayal. Because every time you beg for closure, you give away your power. You place your healing, your peace of mind, in the hands of someone who already showed you they don't value it. You tell yourself that freedom comes from their words, when in reality, freedom comes from your decision to stop waiting. Epictetus said, "It's not what happens to you, but how you react to it that matters." And nowhere is this more true than when you're chasing closure. You can spend weeks, months, even years waiting for an apology that will never come. You can exhaust yourself trying to understand why someone hurt you. But the more you chase their answers, the more you chain yourself to their silence. True closure doesn't come from them. It comes from you. It comes the moment you decide, I don't need their words to validate my pain. I don't need their reasons to justify my healing. I can walk away whole, even without explanation. And here's the paradox. When you stop demanding closure, you actually give it to yourself. You stop letting the past dictate your present. You stop needing permission to move forward. You reclaim your energy, your dignity, your peace. Walking away in silence is not weakness, it's strength. It's the boldest statement you can make. Because silence says, I don't need to hear from you to know my worth. I don't need to understand your actions to honor my healing. I choose myself over the endless cycle of questions without answers. The reality is, some people will never give you closure, not because you don't deserve it, but because they don't have the capacity, the honesty, or the courage to give it. And waiting for it is like waiting for rain in a desert. It keeps you thirsty, but never quenches you. Closure is not a gift someone gives you. Closure is a decision you make. It's the choice to stop bleeding where you were cut. It's the choice to say, I'm not going to let this wound define me any longer. So stop begging for answers. Stop holding your healing hostage. Your silence, your detachment, your refusal to chase. That is your closure. True closure is not found in their apology. True closure is found in your decision to let go, move forward, and never look back. Number 4. Silence exposes what words try to hide. Silence is one of the most underestimated forces in human interaction. Most people think power comes from speaking, from arguing, from proving themselves. But the truth is this: silence often reveals more than words ever could. Words can be polished, words can be manipulated. They can be used as masks to hide someone's true nature. A liar can sound convincing, a manipulator can sound caring, a betrayer can sound loyal. But silence has a way of stripping away the disguise and exposing the truth underneath. When you choose silence, you stop giving others the energy they crave from your reactions. You stop feeding the cycle of endless debates and pointless arguments. And in that quiet, you begin to see things with clarity. You notice the pauses in their speech, the hesitation in their actions, the contradictions in their behavior. Ralph Waldo Emerson once said, "Speech is power. Speech is to persuade, to convert, to compel." And he was right. But there's another power, greater, sharper, more precise. The power of silence. Because silence doesn't try to persuade, it doesn't try to impress, it simply watches, it observes, and in that observation, truth is revealed. Think about it. When someone talks too much, you can't see their true self. Their words create noise, distractions, illusions. But when you stay quiet, when you no longer play into the performance, the mask slips. You see them for who they really are. Their tone, their energy, their actions. These things speak louder than anything they can say. Silence protects you. It keeps you from wasting your time convincing people of your worth. You don't need to argue for your value. You don't need to beg to be understood. The right people will see your worth without you having to explain it. The wrong people will expose themselves when you stop responding. Silence is also self-control. It shows discipline. Anyone can explode in anger, but it takes strength to remain composed. Anyone can fill the air with words, but it takes wisdom to stay still and let truth reveal itself naturally. When you embrace silence, you begin to master yourself. You stop being reactive and you start being intentional. You stop being distracted by words and you start focusing on actions. That's where clarity lives. That's where your power grows. So, the next time someone tries to draw you into chaos, remember this. Silence is not weakness. Silence is strategy. Silence is clarity. And silence exposes what words try to hide. Be the observer. Watch, listen, and let people reveal themselves. Because in the end, it's not what they say that matters. It's what they do when they think you're not watching. That's the truth silence uncovers. And that truth is your greatest power. Number 5. Not explaining yourself is the highest form of confidence. True confidence doesn't come from defending your choices, from convincing others of your worth, or from begging for validation. It comes from the quiet power within. The man who no longer feels the need to explain himself is the man who has mastered himself. When you choose silence over justification, you send a powerful message to the world. I am enough. Elbert Hubbard once said, "The strongest man in the world is he who stands most alone." And he was right. Because when you no longer chase approval, you stand unshakable. You live by your own values, not by the expectations of others. Every time you refuse to explain yourself, you are choosing dignity over desperation. You are saying to the world, my actions speak for me, my choices are my own, and I owe no one an apology for being who I am. Think about how much energy is wasted when people try to justify their every move, their every decision, their every dream. They weaken themselves because they believe they must be understood by everyone around them. But the Stoic stands tall in silence, knowing that the crowd's approval is not the measure of his worth. Marcus Aurelius reminded us that it is not what others say or think that defines us, but what we choose to be within. And when you stop explaining yourself, you are declaring that your life belongs to you, not to the judgment of others. Confidence is not loud. It is not boastful. It is calm, steady, and deeply rooted. The insecure man explains himself endlessly because he wants acceptance. The confident man smiles, nods, and walks away, knowing that his path is his own. Seneca said, "He who has great power should use it lightly." And one of the greatest powers is silence, the power to let your actions speak louder than your words. So the next time someone demands you explain yourself, remember this truth. You don't owe them anything. You don't owe an explanation for your dreams, your choices, or your silence. The people who truly matter will understand you through your actions, not your words. And those who don't understand, they were never meant to. To stand firm without explanation is to embrace freedom. It is to live for yourself and not for the shifting opinions of the world. It is to master the art of self-respect. True confidence is not shouting your worth, it is embodying it. It is walking into the world without the need to convince anyone of who you are. And that, my friend, is real strength. So stop explaining, stop justifying, stop seeking permission. Stand in silence, stand in certainty, stand in power. Because not explaining yourself is not weakness. It is the highest form of confidence. So, what have we uncovered today? That silence is not weakness, it is your greatest superpower. It is the unshakable strength that forces others to feel your absence, the quiet authority that demands respect without a single word. Silence allows you to hear the truth beneath the noise, to see clearly when others are blinded by emotions and distractions. It teaches you that closure is not something handed to you by others, but something you create within yourself. It strips away the lies that words often build and reveals the truths that people try so hard to hide. And most importantly, silence shows the world that you are confident, unbending, and untouchable in who you are. Never forget this. Never chase, never beg, never explain. The moment you fall into the trap of justification, you give away your power. But when you remain silent, when you hold your ground, you send a message louder than any speech. I am in control, I do not need your approval, and I do not live for your validation. Your silence speaks volumes. It shows discipline, self-respect, and mastery over your emotions. Elbert Hubbard reminded us that the strongest man in the world is he who stands most alone, and this is the essence of Stoicism. A Stoic does not argue with the unworthy, he does not waste words on those who will not listen, and he does not explain his path to those who will never understand. Instead, he walks forward in silence, steady, unshaken, unstoppable. And now, I want you to carry this with you into your own life. When anger rises, choose silence. When gossip surrounds you, choose silence. When you feel the urge to explain yourself, choose silence. And watch how people begin to respect you, to notice your strength, to realize that your power comes not from words, but from presence. If this message resonated with you, hit that like button right now and drop your personal affirmation in the comments. Share this with someone who desperately needs to hear these words today. And make sure you subscribe, because every week I bring you more Stoic wisdom to help you sharpen your mind, master your emotions, and rise above. Until next time, embrace your silence. Let it become your armor. Let it become your weapon. Stay strong, stay silent, stay unbreakable.